Hey, what's up, man?
So what is it about? I really like your provocative question.
So it's actually, you want to give it a shot? Actually, have 3 very easy questions.
Sure.
Okay, let me see. Okay. So.
Did you have to get a permit to do this, by the way?
Oh no.
On the campus?
No. This is most campuses, especially here in California, are open to the public.
Oh, okay, that's awesome. So you can just set up like this anytime you like.
Yeah. So real quick, 2 images here. The reason I call them images is because one of them's a photograph and one of them's a painting. So I want to see if people could tell the difference.
I actually can't.
You can't?
Yeah.
Is that your final answer?
My final answer.
Dude, you're the first one to actually get this one right. That is the right answer because it's a trick question. They're both paintings.
Okay.
So the correct answer is we can't tell.
Yeah.
So you're the first one to actually get this, and I've asked a lot of people this, so that's pretty good. So
I'm glad.
Yeah. So there is 2 reasons why I asked this one. The first reason is most people do believe me, but you didn't. But most people, just believing someone opens the door to being deceived, right? Because if you believe me, then that can influence your choice, right?
Yeah.
That's not good to just believe someone, which you didn't, right? And the second reason is if you want to determine something is real, an image is not good enough, because if I showed you an image of me flying or me walking on water, you're not going to believe those images, right? Because that defies physics, nobody can fly, really. So these next 2 have to do with water, elementary physics. So once water is contained like in this bottle, could we agree that water always seeks the lowest point? In other words, it always goes down, right? Because I could turn the bottle upside down, but water always goes down.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That's a fact of water, That's
yeah.
obvious, right? So since we understand that fact about water, and I painted this blue, the water blue, with food coloring just to make it easier, how I'm showing you these 2 images, since we understand water always goes down, which one is upside down?
Upside down?
Which one is upside?
I would think the right one.
This one, yeah, you got it, man, yeah. So this one is upside down. I took it like that. Yeah, because the water can't stick to the top.
Right.
Yeah, so you do
trust.
trust.
That's awesome.
Yeah, you got it. So you do trust your common sense. That's good. Yeah. So this last one, have you ever heard of water find its level? Water always finds its level?
Like it would be balanced throughout.
There you go. Yeah. So what would be another word besides balance or level that we could use?
Equilibrium.
Horizontal.
Horizontal.
Is actually the proper definition. So since we understand that fact about water as well, it always levels out. Which one of these 2 represents water level correctly?
Left one.
Yeah, you got it. Very easy, huh? So the real reason I do this is because over 95% of the population, including myself and maybe you, have been tricked to believing this is the answer, even though we know it's this one. You want to know? Yeah, you want to know? So do you believe the Earth is a ball?
Not maybe it's analogous to the ball, but not exactly a ball.
So like an oblate spheroid. So you still think it's a sphere?
Yeah,
like a ball floating in outer space, right?
Very spherical.
Yeah. So NASA in specific, they claim to have satellites orbiting the Earth, right? So they need to know the radius of orbit. So they need to know the radius of the Earth. So they do tell us the radius of the Earth. Give me 1 second. Where is it? Oh, here it is. It's 3,959 miles. So if we multiply the radius times 2, we get the diameter. And if we multiply that diameter times pi, we get the circumference, right? So the circumference of the Earth is 24,901 miles, is what they're telling us. So there needs to be curvature every mile. So the first mile is an 8-inch drop, second mile 32 inches. By the third mile, there should be 6 feet of curvature. So every mile it increases the curvature because it's a sphere, not a pyramid. So if we actually went out in nature and built a level structure over a giant lake that was miles across, there should be 6 feet of curvature in 3 miles, but we understand water, always levels out. So the water is going to be parallel to that structure. So this would be the #1 experiment to debunk the globe, in my opinion, because physical measurement of the Earth.
Okay, so maybe you're getting at, what were you getting at is that the Earth is not spherical,
exactly.
but it's
flat, level. It's level.
Level.
Yeah, so flat Earth, I know you heard of flat Earth, right? Probably.
Yeah.
So flat Earth is kind of like a term that was propped up to be mocked. Because as soon as people hear flat Earth, they don't want to hear it anymore.
Right.
So I try to stay away from that word because obviously it's like a triggered word. But yeah, the Earth is demonstrably level.
Right. But would you say it's basically the same thing, the flat Earth, with whatever conception you have, or
so the flat
in terms of like it would just take apart, the negative connotations that people think it has, right?
Well, I wouldn't say it's flat either because there's mountains, there's valleys, there's canyons. So, it's the Earth's surface is uneven, but the water is what's level. The water's completely flat. I guess you could use, that term for the water. But to say that the Earth is flat completely, then that kind of turns people off, because then they visualize a disc in outer space, and it kind of it's kind of propaganda in a way. That's what happened. So I try to stay away because nobody really knows what the Earth actually is, other than the surface being level. So nobody really knows what this is. So if I was to ask you, what's the #1 experiment or reason that makes you believe that the Earth is a ball?
I rely on authorities.
I'm glad you said it like that. You're not the first one to say that, but yeah, I'm glad you admit that. It's just based on faith, basically, and what that they're telling you the truth, right?
I didn't really do all the calculations and experiments by
right.
myself.
Well, there's a reason why they don't teach us this in school, the 8 inches per mile squared curvature of the Earth, because if they teach us this as a little kid and people actually went out, and tested this, it'll fall apart. You know what I'm saying? That's why they don't tell us this in school, but they do tell us that the Earth is a ball. But
yeah, so maybe I'm still having trouble with that explanation. So 8 inches is curvature per mile. What does that
per
mean?
mile squared? So
per mile squared.
Because they're telling us that the radius of the Earth is 3,959 miles, there needs to be curvature every mile. So the formula for this curvature rate,
every mile squared or
every mile squared.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, what's the difference between every mile squared and every mile?
Because if it's every mile, 8 inches every mile, it's just gonna build a pyramid. You know what I'm saying? It's like if you get a square grid and you go 2, 1, and then 1 down, and then 2, 1, and then 1 down, and then 2, 1. It's just gonna make like a pyramid.
Yeah.
But since they're telling us Earth is a sphere, with the radius, that mile needs to be square because that curvature needs to increase because it needs to come back around. So it's not just 8 miles per mile. It's 8 inches per mile. It's 8 inches per mile squared.
Right.
Because it's a sphere. You know what I'm saying? Here's another formula that's way easier. You understand the Pythagorean theorem? A squared plus b squared equals c squared.
Yeah.
It's very easy, right? So since we understand, they're telling us the radius, and then we can obviously know how far we're seeing an object based on if we use a point of reference, right? We could use the a squared plus b squared formula, the Pythagorean theorem, to calculate for this curvature as well. So what I did here is I replaced r squared plus L squared, solve for x squared. Once we solve for x squared, we just deduct the radius, and that leaves us with the drop. And this is accurate for the first 300 miles as well. So that 8 inches per mile squared, you could use the Pythagorean theorem as well, if it's a little confusing. You know what I'm saying?
It is really confusing. You said we can deduct the diameter?
Once we solve for x, right, because a squared plus b squared equals c squared,
right,
we just deduct the radius, which is the distance from the center to the surface, and that leaves us with the drop. This should be the curvature drop right here. Does that make sense? This distance from here to here,
drop.
That should be how much Earth is bending. Because if the Earth is a ball, it has to be curving, right? That's what they're telling us.
Yeah.
So this is the curvature rate, basically, using the Pythagorean theorem. There's just 2 different formulas, basically giving us the same number, 8 inches per mile squared.
Yeah.
This one's easier to understand, obviously, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And this one's the exact curvature rate, which has to be done on a computer, because I don't think anybody could do this in person, getting all these, big numbers.
Right.
I actually did this one with a calculator as well, I couldn't do this on the top of my head.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm going to trust the calculations. I'm not
these are the measurements they give us,
myself.
So
I'm curious.
Real quick. So the horizon, right? How would you describe the horizon?
It's that which is up there, I guess.
I mean, geometrically, how would you describe it?
I'm not exactly sure. Maybe it's flat, maybe it's not.
Could we say it's horizontal?
I guess so. Yeah, from my perspective, I would see it as being horizontal.
Right. Yeah. So the only place you're ever gonna see curvature of the Earth is through GoPro. I don't know if you're familiarized with the fisheye lens.
Yeah.
Right. It curves horizontal lines. So you're only ever gonna see curvature of the Earth through GoPro lenses or through CGI cartoons like these. So these are basically this one's from 2002, NASA official image, and this one's from 2012. So, but they admit these are Photoshop. So an image like this.
NASA?
Yeah, these are from NASA's website. Yeah, I admit it. They don't call them Photoshop, they call them composites. So they're just another word for Photoshop, basically. But they admit. So
that's a strong admission by them.
Yeah, it is. And they have to do this. You want to know why? Because then they'll get sued in court. So for legal reasons, they have to call them images. Because they're not photographs.
What would they be sued for?
I'm assuming for lying. Because they're not photographs, they're not genuine photographs.
Right. So you would probably be saying something like, NASA makes it seem as if the Earth is circular or spherical. But in reality, it's not.
It's not.
They're photoshopping their photos.
No image of the Earth like this exists. All of these are cartoons.
They're composed.
Composites.
Composites.
Yeah, composite. Well, composed. Yeah, I mean,
okay.
Yeah, you get
composites.
it. Yeah, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I came across this 6 years ago. This topic. I mean, it's always been around, but it's been heavily censored until the internet came out and people are able to share, and exploded on the internet around 2015, 2016.
Right.
And it started getting censored around 2019. And the way they're censoring it is they're not removing this information from the internet, they're just demoting it and they're promoting just so-called experts and all these astrophysicists, and they're just ridiculing it. So that's how they're censoring it. They're ridiculing it, dismissing it, and not taking it serious. So that's how they're censoring it.
Yeah, I definitely think even with this position, which has like so many negative connotations connected with it from other people's opinions, right? I think it should be taken seriously, especially with the evidence that you're presenting me.
Exactly.
It's just one of the things is I wished I understood what you were saying there with all the
all the
math.
I mean, the Pythagorean theorem is the easiest to understand, but you should take a look at this one. I don't know if you want to take a picture of it, but
sure, yeah, why not?
Why not, right? And you could show this to any professor,
All right.
And then you could take a picture of this.
Back to awesome.
Yeah, Pythagorean theorem.
And how were you able to find all these information?
So, like I said, when it exploded on the internet around 2015, it wasn't that censored. So I was able to, see some YouTube videos, and then little by little, number one proof. Once water is the number one proof. Here, let me give you this. Sure. These are the 6 main proofs to debunk the globe. I'm gonna take a quick look at them. So water's the number one. The horizon obviously never curves. Euclidean plane geometry. So just understanding all the facts about construction and engineering and the physics of water is what led me to accept this as a part of my reality.
Right. And so what were your studies in? Private and also at the university, if you had any
No, actually haven't had any university experience. I did graduate from honors in high school, but that's pretty much it. I didn't pursue college. But
yeah, okay. That's awesome. I mean, we're supposed to be learning anyways. Just because a student goes to the university does not mean that they
can't
automatically
learn.
Smart, quote unquote. I usually avoid that word smart, because smart in what specifically?
Exactly.
Smart science,
you're pretty smart, actually. You believe it or not, you are, man, because intelligence has nothing to do with memorizing and repeating, and that's what people think. Oh, you can memorize this whole book and repeat it. Like, that's not what smart is. Smart is understanding what you're learning and seeing if it's real or not. Having discernment and being honest. Intelligence is it's not just one thing. It's a big. It encompasses a lot of different things.
Right. And I'm thinking, so one of your goals would be to help people see that the Earth is not actually spherical or like a ball.
Exactly.
I mean, is there anything further? Is there some sort of religion involved?
So, in my opinion, all religions, again, I'm not religious myself, but all religions, in my opinion, are there to control people. And I'm pretty sure, some religions are pretty extreme, right? And they take advantage of, I would say the heliocentric model, the all earth belief, all that, it's the biggest religion on earth. And I'm going to tell you why. Number one, because it's based on faith, just like every other religion, It has nothing scientific, nothing empirical. It's just faith. You believe that, Second is, all religions have a creation story. And what's the heliocentric model's creation story? The Big Bang, evolution, gravity supposedly forming planets and orbital mechanics. So all of that is just a creation story, just like any other religion. The fact is, nobody knows how this place got here. Nobody even knows what it is, other than the surface being level. I don't know what this place is. Like, I don't know. I'm having this this experience of existing, but I don't know what it is.
Right. And what's your understanding of religion? So you would say that all these religions would have their creation stories, right?
Yeah.
So would you say religion is that faith that, let's say, a person puts into something,
yes,
and also it's unprovable?
Exactly.
So just those two conditions, or anything else?
Yeah. Well, obviously the creation story.
Yeah. So that's 3.
Creation story, and I would say that religions are, again, they do all this just to basically make you doubt your own common sense and your own experience, and just give that away to someone else. And if you do that, you're most likely just gonna do everything else they say as well, like how to live, what to do. So it's all about control through dumbing people down, to making you believe that other people are smarter than you. So I think that's all religions do, and that's what the baller does too.
So what if there were a religion that indicated the goal is not to be smart, the goal is not control, but it's to be free? I mean, I don't know, maybe perhaps, you can think of probably Satanism, and let's say this person, the Satanist, goes to the devil, and then the devil tells this person that they will be free if they keep committing all these bad things. Would that be a religion of control as well, would you say, or is that something that's free?
Well, put it this way, any religion trying to tell you what to do and how to live, I would say it doesn't even have to be a religion. Any person trying to tell you what to do and how to live without any logical stance or any common sense is just trying to take advantage of it. And I think, again, it doesn't have to be a religion. It could be a person too. But I just feel like religions are just groups of these kinds of people. They're just trying to take advantage of other people. And again, they do it through, again, just lying, you know, like, oh, we figured it out, you know, and this is what we're supposed to do, and God spoke to me, and this is what we're supposed to do, you know, like, that's bullshit. God doesn't speak to just one person. If God speaks to one, he speaks to all, you know. And I would say,
and why do you think so?
Because we're all equal. We're all, it doesn't matter what God you believe in, or whatever higher power you believe in, we were all created by the same. I don't know what that is. Religion tries to tell you what that is.
So you think there were a creation?
100%. So the first law of thermodynamics, I don't know if you ever heard, energy cannot be created nor destroyed. It can only transform from one form to another.
Yeah.
So we cannot create something out of nothing right now. And we can't make something disappear either. So what that tells me is that we came from something. Because something can come from nothing.
Right.
And that's the fact. That's a scientific fact.
Right.
First law. It debunks the Big Bang.
Yeah.
It debunks all that shit.
Would you say we've always existed then with that consideration?
That's a possibility. I do think about it like in those terms, like, you know, I do get philosophical about it, and it's like, has this place always existed, or is it some kind of technology that we're experiencing? So I'm in the middle right now. I don't know.
Right.
You know?
Right. So you wouldn't. Would there be a sort of problem with one view saying that we were created, and then another view who says that we are eternal? Or do you think that creation and eternality can go together?
Yes, I think
so?
creation. So if this place was created, like some kind of technology, where we come from is the true natural place. So this is just an experience we're having. This cannot be considered natural, because if we're part of the eternal, which I think we are, and if this is a creation, that means we come from something else. So what we truly are is not this. So this is just an experience. So we could be eternal, obviously, because energy cannot be created nor destroyed. So we have to be. That's a fact. You know, I think based on what science shows. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So that's interesting, because there are some people, like for example Aristotle, who would hold to Aristotle / those followers of Thomas Aquinas, one member of the Catholic Church.
Okay.
They would say something to this effect, that even if creation were eternal, God, or that the being, that unmoved mover,
the higher power,
could still create through all that eternality. So it's just something to reaffirm what you're saying, right? You're not the only one who holds to that view.
Oh, okay.
So I'm really curious then, like, maybe specifically about Christianity. Do you think that it is so with those three conditions, right? The religion of control, and when a person puts their faith in it, are there certain proofs that can go with that as well? And I forgot what the third condition was. But
it was a creation story.
Creation story, yeah. So with a creation story, is there any proof that we can provide for it, implicitly or explicitly?
What do you mean, proof that we could say that that's not good to do that?
Or evidence, like evidence that in fact God did create humanity.
Okay.
The world in that
so
way.
I would say the evidence that some kind of higher power is involved here is the fact that we're alive. And if you ever look at the human anatomy, like how the eyeball even works, you know, how our intestines work, you know, everything about the human body.
It's amazing.
It's amazing, exactly. If one thing goes wrong, the whole body falls apart. So it's like a machine that's always working. So to think that just came by accident is to believe that you're going to find an iPhone 14 in the middle of the woods, and you're going to believe that it just built itself.
Yeah. So that's very interesting.
You know
it seems like you are familiar with the fine-tuning argument for God's existence.
Yeah.
Right,
Trust me, I've thought about it a lot. I'm very philosophical myself, even since I was a child. I hate to say it, but this globe Earth belief squashed that curiosity for me, because I was very, I would think a lot about my existence. I would think a lot about this reality, about myself and all this. But then as soon as this was introduced to me, my curiosity about this place was just squished. So the fact that I found out that it was actually all a lie, I got all that curiosity back. Now as an adult, I'm able to express it better. Obviously, a child can't really, he doesn't have the vocabulary or to be able to explain what he thinks, right? But now as an adult, it makes perfect sense. The fact is, we don't know what this place is, and to me, that's actually a better stance than just being ignorant. You know what I'm saying? To not know, it actually makes it a little bit exciting for me. You know what I'm saying? Like, we don't know what's going on.
And I think that can be like a healthy I don't know to
exactly.
certain
It
things.
is.
We should have that. I think for me personally, it really helps me to be even more curious and try to explore more with that I don't know.
Yes, exactly.
Now, I would think that you would hold to the position that at least there are some things that we can know for certain. Okay, so that's good. You're not just a global skeptic or anything like that.
So physics, we have 5 senses, right?
Yeah.
So those senses are obviously, we have them to be able to navigate this place, you know, and we can test things to a certain limit to see how they behave, to see what they do, and that's why we're able to create technology, because we know these things. We know physics, right? But there's only a certain point to how far we can understand. So for example, water. We utilize water for a bunch of different things, you know, like the physics of water, how water, you know, for example, the brakes in your car utilizes liquid fluid because water, you know, water cannot be compressed. So, you know, so if you have a small, water cannot be compressed is the point. You know, can make water into a smaller space. So knowing these facts about, we're able to build, you know, machines and things that work, right? So, but again, when we start talking about like what makes up water, like molecules, the little things, and what makes up the air, that's theoretical. So we don't know that. So H2O, oxygen, those are just concepts. Molecules is what makes up this reality. Again, this part of the creation story of the heliocentric model.
I see. Yeah. So I mean, since you're philosophically minded, I wonder, I don't know if you've ever examined the historical arguments for Jesus' resurrection. I've had a lot of people bring that up to me, right? And I find it really interesting. It's very intriguing. Okay, so I can present the arguments for you if you'd like, but I mean, just prima facie, what do you think about it?
Right, so the whole Jesus thing, huh?
Yeah.
So, to be honestly, you know, blunt about it, religion, again, it's just a story, you know. I can't even prove what happened 100 years ago. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not gonna believe anybody telling me what happened 100 years ago. Right. So if my logical mind doesn't let me do that, like, sure, I'll hear your story, you know, doesn't mean I'm gonna believe it.
Yeah.
If I can't believe somebody, how am I gonna believe someone 2,000 years ago?
Right.
Especially doing all these things that defy physics, walking on water, making things appear out of nowhere, you know, like, again, I think the Bible, all Bibles, especially Christianity, it's a metaphoric book. So the lessons in it are true, like the meaning behind the stories, not the stories themselves. It's the meaning behind the book that matters. That's why I think with all religions, to be honest, I think all religions are like it's the meaning behind it.
So you're not saying that the whole Bible is completely
fabricated,
false, right? You say at least there's this reality, quote unquote, for the stories, like in terms of the stories.
Like the moral of the story.
Yeah, the moral of the story.
Did you get the moral of the story? Oh, okay, now you learned something. You don't have to believe the literal story. You know what I'm saying? Like let's say when you watch Star Wars, right? You see a lot of love stories in Star Wars and a lot of things that happen in life. But that doesn't mean Star Wars is real. You know what I'm saying? Like Chewbacca's out there, you know, and doing all these things. But the moral of the story is what I go with.
Right. So you mentioned that you would not believe what happened 100 years ago.
Yes.
Am I correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So when it comes to something like, let's say we are going towards the future and we're really far away from the time of the Holocaust or the foundation of America, would you dismiss history, any history that's more
we don't
than
even have
100
to
years?
go that far. Right now, I don't trust how this. You know how it tells 200 years ago, Columbus came here, took it from the Indians, right?
Yeah.
And that's how America came to be, right? I get that story, you know, that's the ones that's pushed on us since we're little, right? I don't believe it.
Right.
So I don't know exactly how this place was colonized, but that's the story they give us, right? But
so for example, let's say you had pictures of your ancestors,
right? And
you have a picture of somebody really old. They're 200 years apart from you.
Right.
Would you believe that they existed and they were in fact your ancestors?
Right.
Or no?
I mean, to be honest, I wouldn't even like go. Like, it's so irrelevant to me to believe it or not believe it. It won't even make a difference in my life. So. I wouldn't even bother believing it, you know what I'm saying?
Right. So you wouldn't bother believing in
stuff that's not gonna affect my life,
right?
Positive or negative, you know. Especially positive. If it's not gonna affect me positively, why am I gonna focus on it?
Yeah.
Break my head over it, you know.
Well, I mean, I wonder, like, let's say you go to a psychologist, right? So you have a sort of problem. The psychologist says, I want you to examine your family history and trace it back. See if there were certain anger tendencies or like smoking tendencies and things like that, so that the psychologist can help you solve your problems at the moment, right? Well, that would be relevant to you, I think. But let's say that that ancestor in the past, in fact, were not relevant. I think that's a different question than whether it
existed
is
or
in
not.
reality that they existed.
Yeah.
Right?
So again, I will admit that some things I don't know. So I would just admit in that sense I don't know. So I won't have to believe it still, but I won't have to deny it. So I just say I don't know.
Right.
So that's what I go with. Either I know something or I don't.
Right.
That's what I go with. I don't have to believe. You know,
So
believe
that's
it.
very interesting. You're not a global skeptic, but you're skeptical. You're skeptical of anything that's 100 years in the past from where you are.
Yeah,
living.
from where I'm at right now.
Okay.
I'm 100% skeptical about everything 100 plus years.
Right.
You know,
So
before me.
who do you think created cars or?
To be honest, I don't think nobody knows. I think that
okay.
the idea has been stolen from somebody that actually did it years ago,
Uh-huh.
and then whoever stole it capitalized on it, and that's the reason why we still have gas cars today, and we don't have electric cars like we should have.
Right.
100 years. I don't know if you knew the electric car was invented before the gas car.
I actually.
You didn't know that?
No, I didn't.
So the reason it's obvious why the electric car didn't get pushed because oil.
Yeah.
That's how the whole Dubai, Qatar, all these places were built off of our money, off of oil. So all this, 100 years of paying for gas is what built Dubai.
Yeah.
It's what built all these places in the Middle East. You know what I'm saying? So
I see the consistency in your view, actually. Like, you are really consistent with it. So you're not saying, for some things I'm going to believe in the past, and some things I'm going to believe.
I'm glad you're seeing that. I'm very
not
consistent.
believe in the belief, right?
Yeah.
So I like the consistency. Maybe it's a little bit of a hard view for me to accept.
Oh, yeah.
Considering that I do believe we can have historical facts, be thousands of years old, from my time. So like Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, those people really did exist way back then.
Okay.
But and I can still see, so you would have that skeptical position. So that's definitely
Here's
awesome.
the thing: when it comes to like these characters like George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, I know I've never really heard people talking like this, but it's just where my mind takes me. I can't accept those characters 100% were real.
Right.
Again,
is there any percentage that you can put on them? Like,
I mean, maybe
50%?
50-50, but again, I'll go back to I don't know. That'll be my final answer. I don't know. So if they actually existed,
Right. So 50-50 would be like maybe tentative, but I don't know is going to be that
that's
sure.
that's my sure answer. I don't know. But that's the honest answer. If anybody's honest, we don't know. We just have to take someone's word.
Right. So I do
That's
think
the
that
fact.
it's going to be based on probabilities. It's going to be hard to put a number on it. So I wouldn't know if I would put it on like 95% chance that George Washington really did exist.
Right. But here's the thing: when we're talking about stories, stories are one thing. But when we're talking about physics, I don't have to have faith. So if somebody, for example, 2,000 years ago did a physics experiment, I shouldn't just have to believe that experiment. I should be able to recreate that physics experiment today.
Right.
Do you get what I'm saying? So that's where stories to me become irrelevant when it comes to determining what's real. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So
maybe specifically stories about physics, because like if you had, let's say, an ancestral story passed down to you, maybe you will believe that, or maybe you won't.
I mean,
right?
if it's physically shown and demonstrated and practically used, then I don't have to believe it. I would know it.
Right,
I would
because
understand it.
In order for you to know if something is true, it would have to be testable.
Have to experience it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And so let's say, for example, somebody across the globe, they experience something. Maybe they see a white raven somehow. But your experience, over here in America, you've always experienced black ravens.
Right.
Is it? And then they come over to America and they tell you that there was a white raven over there. You wouldn't just believe them immediately.
No.
You would have to experience it for yourself.
Yeah. And then I'm gonna tell you why. Because if I just believe them, that state of mind is not good to have in other aspects where people are trying to take advantage of you. Because this is like a very innocent scenario. Oh, it's just believing he has a white sheep or whatever, right? Or a raven, right? But if we go to like a more serious scenario, like when there's money involved, for example, like NASA, putting just faith into something, again,
Maybe control, huh? They may be trying to control
Yeah,
us.
exactly. So that's why, even if it's the smallest thing, my mind can't go there because I have to be consistent, like you said.
Yeah.
You know, like I have to stay consistent. So even if it's the smallest thing, I can just I believe you. Just to make you feel good, you know. Maybe I'll say it just to make you feel good, but inside I don't. You know what I'm saying?
Well, let's consider, for example, like a lot of people go over to that place with the white raven, right? So I don't know, maybe 1 billion people somehow they migrate over there,
Right.
and you're still over here in America with those 6 other billion or however many in America, right? 300 millions.
Right. 300
So
million.
you would you say that, and then those. The 1 billion, they come back to you and then they testify to you, just one by one.
Mhm.
Hey, we saw a white raven over there. Would you believe that or no?
Again, testimony and testifying, all this, to me, just sounds like a religion. So
you wouldn't believe it.
I wouldn't believe it.
Okay. So when it comes to something like, let's say the chart that you gave me, like all the calculations.
But I wouldn't deny. I wouldn't throw it out the window either. Know that.
Right.
So
You would
just
say,
because
I
I don't,
don't know. Right.
just because I don't believe it doesn't mean you're wrong. Now you could be right. You know, I just don't know
Right.
if you're right. You know,
Right.
you could have 1,000 people, 1 million people, 1 billion people saying it. If I don't know, I don't know. You know,
Right.
that's simple.
Right. So when it comes to the calculations, right?
Yeah.
So these people in the past, they created the computers and all its minute details
Yeah.
for you to possess. Could it be possible that they could have just fooled you into thinking that you see these numbers, you see these calculations, when in reality, you're, like you said, you're just in an experiment? Would you be willing to take that position?
No, because these numbers that are shown to us, well, these numbers don't exist. But other numbers, for example, like when it comes to building a computer, you know, when it comes, not only are they work, but they're used practically. So these numbers are actually being applied to
Right.
something, and we're actually using it.
Right.
So I don't have to place faith on that. You know what I'm saying? I understand that it works. I understand, you know, those numbers work.
Right.
Now, when we're giving numbers like this, and we put these numbers to the test, just like any other numbers, like a car, you know, to build a car, to build a house, even to get the measurement. When we put these numbers to the test, the globe falls apart. So that's my point. All the numbers that we're being told about the heliocentric model are all made up.
Right. So one of the things that you would say would be required for something to be true is that it has to be practical.
Exactly.
Right. So when it comes to, let's say, a mathematical equation that we figure out, some really smart genius,
Okay.
he figures out. Would you say that mathematical equation is real, or it's
What's
not
that matter
real?
equation about?
It's not about anything practical. So
I mean, it's just a mind puzzle. I think mathematics, if it's an equation that's not tied to reality, is just a mind puzzle.
tied to practicality, right?
No, if it's not tied to practicality, if an equation is just an equation and it's not tied to reality, like be able to use that equation practically, then it's just a mind puzzle.
Right.
So
So
just
so
like-
for you, what is reality is that which is practical.
So for
There's
example,
nothing-
a measurement of speed, for example, how long does it take a train going 60 miles an hour to go 60 miles? We can measure that. We can measure 60 miles. We can measure how long it takes, you know, that type of measurement I'm talking about. And
Right.
building a house, for example, we're going to build a house, 12 feet on this side, and then we're going to build it 12 feet on this side, and then we're
and
going
you can use physical equations to help you out with that,
Exactly.
and that's practical.
Exactly, because
Yeah.
I'm using them. But these are not used. That's my point. They only exist in a book.
Right. So
These
when it comes to
curvature
a squared plus b squared equals c squared, you would say that's not practical.
That is practical.
That is practical.
Yeah, triangulation.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you were pointing, you said these are not
No,
practical.
when it comes to measuring the curvature for this rate.
and that's not practical. So
The
measuring
curvature rate is not practical, but the equation is. The
Right.
equation could be used, and that's why it's used for the curvature rate of the globe, and the curvature is not there. That's my
Right.
point.
So could you measure anything? Like, for example, can you measure the table
Oh, yeah.
and that be a reality?
Yeah,
So you would say we can measure the table, but we can't measure the curvature of the globe.
because it doesn't exist. It just goes straight. That's the thing. The surface of the Earth just goes straight. It doesn't curve.
Right? Do you think there would, like, in the future, we would have, it would be possible at least, right, to have a technology such that the measurement of the curvature of the globe would be spot on with our mathematical equations, just like how we would be able to measure the table now?
Right. I see what you're trying to get to. I don't think it's ever gonna happen because the curvature is just not there.
Right.
That's just.
Oh, so
Yeah.
that's interesting. You wouldn't be skeptical about that. You would say,
I mean,
you wouldn't think like so. So you would be more sure on that.
Well, again, I go with physics, so I know water always finds its level, and I know level means horizontal. So if you're telling me that the level means curve after a certain distance, then the burden on proof will be on that person to undeniably prove that it is curving.
So it would be on that person, right?
Yeah.
Would you say it's also on you who would try to claim that we can't measure the curvature of the globe as well? Because it seems to me like the burden proof would fall on the person who is trying to convince another or is making a proposition and coming up with a conclusion from the proposition.
Right. So I would say that the initial proposition or the initial premise is water level, right? We all understand, you know, if we go to a bathtub, we go to a pool, we go to a lake, you know, water always forms a horizontal line. Now, again, that's a fact that we can all agree. Even people that believe the globe, a lot of people would say, oh yeah, it's locally flat, right?
Yeah.
So since we all accept that water level means horizontal or flat, right? The burden of proof is on those who claim that it curves after a certain distance. You know what I'm saying? Because we all agree, okay, it's level, it's horizontal. Now there's some people saying, oh, but it starts to curve after 3 miles. Well, prove it.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with you. They have the burden.
They have the burden.
Now let's consider your claim. Right, your claim is you can't prove the curvature of the globe. So that's a claim. That's a proposition, or maybe
you could say it's a claim. Yeah,
right.
or proposition.
And would you say that also you also have a burden of proof to carry with that proposition, or?
Well, I would say the proof is in understanding how the physics of water works. I would say that's the proof, and again, anybody can understand how water behaves. It's very, very easy. You know what I'm saying? It always seeks the lowest point, always finds its level once contained. So if you're gonna try to take that from me, like my understanding of that, again, you're gonna have to have some extraordinary proof, to debunk it.
Right. So I'm not trying to take it. And
no. I'm just in general. Just in general.
Say that I'm trying to take it, right?
No. Yeah.
I'm just curious, right? So like, we're just basically discussing about the burden of proof, right?
Yeah, burden.
So when it comes to these measurements, do you think it would be possible that somehow now and in the past we've been able to measure things to at least a good approximation, right? But then somehow tomorrow everything will go mad. We will not be able to measure anything to a good approximation at all.
So measurement,
that's possible?
It's possible because measurement, the way we measure nowadays, it's using a certain metric system, right? So in America we use inches, feet, and in Europe they might use the different, you know, they might not use inches, they use yards, right? Point being is that because we all have this metric system that we all use, we're able to all have the same measurement. So we all agree an inch is from here to here, right? Whatever. It's this many millimeters, right? And then 12 inches is a foot, right? We all agree on that.
Yeah.
So when it comes to, again, measuring things, the fact that everything, like we all understand each other when it comes to, because we're all using the same metric system, but we can create our own metric systems.
Right.
You know, I don't know if you knew that. Yeah, we could easily do it. You know what I'm saying?
So would it be possible that tomorrow we use the same measurement system that we have, let's say in America, inches and feet and all that? Would it be possible that tomorrow somehow it doesn't
use a
work
different
anymore?
Well, it won't work if it will always work. That's the thing.
So
because
how
it's tied to something real.
It always works if you have not experienced the future.
Well, put it this way, it always works because, again, it's just language based, put it that way. So an inch, you know, we're just giving that an inch, but what's real is the distance, what that inch does, you know.
Right.
So what you're saying is if tomorrow that doesn't work, like, I don't understand.
Yeah,
Use
so
a different metric system.
So let's say our measurement system is in terms of inches today and in the past, and that's always worked out fine, you know. Like
right.
We can see how many inches this table is. Then tomorrow we try to measure the table again, and we use that same method of measuring using inches, but it doesn't work somehow.
So that means that the table grew or
no,
it
the
shrunk?
table is going to stay the same,
well, then
but somehow our measurement of it doesn't work out the same.
I see what you mean.
So maybe today and yesterday, this was
so you think an inch
26 inches or something.
So theoretically you're saying, let's say an inch is like this big. You think tomorrow an inch is going to be this big?
I don't know. Like, I'm wondering.
I don't think that makes sense to me, but I know what you're trying to ask. Like, I don't think once we establish, okay, 1 foot is 12 inches, I don't think that foot's ever going to be 13 inches unless we change it. So we have to make an inch a little shorter to compensate to make an extra inch. You know what I'm saying?
Right, so you think that an inch will always
it's just
be,
a concept.
let's say like this.
Well, that's what we all agree on. Yeah, an inch is a certain size, so 12 inches is going to be a foot.
So you think that it will always be like this, for example, right? It will always be like this today,
tomorrow,
yesterday, and tomorrow, even though you haven't experienced tomorrow?
I guess that's a good point. I know what you're trying to say. I mean, we don't know if we're going to be alive tomorrow, so you can go as far as to say that.
Right.
So, you know, so, I mean, I don't know what tomorrow holds, put it that way.
Maybe you would say
no,
something like this.
But logically, it should be. For example, a cup of water, it's 8 ounces. A cup of water. You're going to tell me a cup of water is going to weigh 10 ounces tomorrow?
I don't know.
That's what you're asking me.
Well, my position is like, I'm going to believe it even though I haven't experienced it, right? So I believe tomorrow.
Well, I would say that's a logical belief based on something that cannot be broken. I doubt an 8 ounce cup of water that weighs 8 ounces is not going to weigh 10 ounces tomorrow unless you put 2 ounces of water in it.
Right.
Then it's going to weigh 10 ounces tomorrow.
Right.
Or it's not going to weigh 6 ounces unless you leave it out for like a week. Then the water eventually evaporates. Condensation. And
so
water will get lower. But not because. Again, energy cannot be created nor destroyed. You know what I'm saying? So, an 8 ounce of water is always going to be 8 ounces of water.
Yeah. At least that's with my system. Once again, the reason I bring this, well, actually I didn't mention this, but the reason I bring it up is you mentioned how you wouldn't trust history 100 years removed from yourself because you have not experienced it, right?
But history is just his story, just somebody's story.
Right. So it comes down to his story. That's going to be problematic. It's not that this is this thing, history, quote unquote, is 100 years removed from you. It's that it's his story specifically. That's that subject. That's the problem. Okay. But then when it comes to let's say a measurement that we've discovered way back then, 200 years apart from us, you would still believe that because that's not history, right? Even though it's
a physical measurement. So I would say that's a little bit more I will go towards because again, it's a physical measurement. And if a thing is still there and we could all go and measure it and confirm, then I don't have to believe, that this was, whatever. But I kind of get what you're getting at. But,
right. So let's say we were able to date a manuscript of one of the Gospels in the Bible, and this manuscript seems to have been, 1,000 years before, 2,000 years before, whatever it was. Would you believe that, or would you say, oh, that's also history, right? So it's a physical thing. That's I guess maybe you challenge it, right? It's practical. Would you be willing to believe in that manuscript?
So when it comes to, I'm just gonna say this real quick. I don't know if you've ever heard about a lot of documents like this. Old documents have been fake. In other words, they're made to look old, and they make them look, brownish, and very old. And there's a lot of people that have been caught doing that. So just the fact that people are able to kind of try to fabricate stuff like that, and it has been done, and people have been caught, I just can't accept any story on a book. You know what I'm saying? Again, if it's scientific, if it's about physics, then I don't need to see a book. You just show me the experiment.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
So you would trust the experiment more than something that's physical
than a book.
Right. And a
well,
book
an experiment is physical. An experiment is physical. It has to be a physical experiment.
So when it
tangible.
comes to us experimenting
like this,
with the measurement of the table, do you think that measurement is physical or is the table physical?
Well, because the table is physical, we're doing a physical measurement. Because we're able to go 3 dimensions around it. We could even weigh it. We can measure the length. We can measure the width. We can measure the height. And again, the weight as well.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. So maybe one way to think about it is like the measurement itself is not physical, but it is
tied to something physical.
It is tied to something
It's a language
physical.
tied to something physical.
Right.
Yeah.
So now I'm curious then, with that in mind, would you say the experiment or the measurement would be physical then, or would it just be merely connected to that which is physical, which is the table?
Yeah. So the measurements could be physical if they're tied to something physical. But if they're not, then it's just theoretical. Those measurements are just theoretical.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So when it comes to like a historical quote unquote discovery of a manuscript being 1,000 years ago, you would say that that's not physical. Even though the manuscript is physical, you would say the measurement of it being 1,000 years is not physical, or
okay. So now you're so I don't know if you knew time is just a concept. So time is based on the movement of the sun, you know. So the whole idea of a year comes from the movement of the sun, 365 days, you know, that's how many cycles, you know, for 1 year.
Right.
So when you're talking about measuring time, now you're talking about measuring a concept. So again, it just gets more abstract to me now. Like you tell me to believe
like
a timeline now.
It's not practical.
Yeah,
anymore.
exactly.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
So let's say, imagine, for example, the sun goes poof just for a moment. It just stops existing.
Right.
Well,
we'll all be blind,
4
but
seconds.
yeah.
4 seconds.
We won't be able to see nothing.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
Yeah.
4 seconds.
4
right?
seconds.
It goes away.
Completely dark.
And do you think that there would be time in the moment that the sun goes out, or no? So like for those 4 seconds,
it would just. I think it would just be a moment. Time again. We will have to find something to reference time.
Right.
We'll have to find something else.
You would not consider a moment's time, right? You
moment is reality. So time is just a concept of reality.
Right. And what was specifically for that moment, do you think that is time or in time or is not time? What do you think is that moment? You know, of the 4 seconds. Maybe you're thinking of them combined.
Right. For a moment, I think it's just existing. It's just the present.
Right.
So basically, that's what a moment is to me. So life is just one big moment. If you think about it, it's just one big moment.
Right. So think about the moment of 1,000 years in the future.
Okay.
Is that actually a moment, or?
Well, it's a moment that eventually will happen if the Earth is gonna last 1,000 cycles.
Right.
That moment should come.
So it's a
it's gonna be like this,
moment. Theoretical moment.
Theoretical
it's not
moment.
Actually moment.
Yeah,
right
that's
now.
a theoretical moment.
Right.
Yeah,
So how about the past? Is that a theoretical moment?
Well, now you have to place faith now.
Something real.
Yeah, because it already happened. So now you have to place. The future is not certain.
Right.
So that's why it could be theoretical. You can make plans. You know, you could change the future.
Right.
The past can't be. So if somebody's lying about the past, how are you gonna know?
Right.
That's why I don't choose
so
to
let's
lie.
say, for example, you know, you were sitting here an hour ago. Do you think that hour ago you were really sitting here, or was that something, or is that something you can't measure, something you can't? It's not practical, and so you don't know if you were actually sitting here an hour.
Well, because again, we have the sun. The sun didn't disappear. 15 degrees. The sun moves every hour. So if I'm here for an hour, that means the sun moved 15 degrees. So that the sun will be our reference point for time.
Right. So when it comes down to, let's say, a person existing 1,000 years apart from us, right? You would say that that's a reality, even though
they experience that reality. I don't know if they actually did. If you know, whoever you're showing me on a picture, or you know, I can accept that maybe that person did exist back then. But do I know that for a fact? No.
So would you say you know for a fact that you were sitting here an hour ago in the past?
Yeah.
But you would not.
Because I experienced it.
Yeah, because you would not. But then you would not know, for example, if that person, you know, 1,000 years ago
Was in a certain place
really
at a
exist.
certain, yeah.
Okay.
Because I didn't experience that yet.
Yeah. Wow. So that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm really appreciating how you're really consistent with your views.
No, yeah,
right?
yeah,
So
yeah.
so that's an amazing quality that I think a lot of people
Don't have.
Yeah, exactly.
No, yeah, that's true. A lot of people like flip-flop back and forth, you know, like
Exactly.
you contradict themselves to another thing that happens a lot.
Right.
People contradict themselves a lot.
Right.
I try to stay consistent because, yeah, I hate contradicting yourself, because that just makes you look more logical. Like you're just not making sense now, you know what I'm saying? So I try to stay consistent, you know, because it's part of having a constructive conversation, you know, to stay consistent. Because if you're going back and forth, then what are we really talking about? You know what I'm saying? If you're going back and forth, you know, you don't even have a stance where you stand. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, having a conversation to me is like the best thing we could do as humans. So, you know, that's how we learn.
It's amazing.
That's how we grow. That's how we get our views challenged.
Yeah.
You know, and if you never have your views challenged, then you're never gonna learn.
Yeah.
You're never gonna grow.
I mean, do you mind if I get one of your social medias? Maybe we can talk again sometime.
Here you go. Here's my.
Awesome.
I have a YouTube channel right there. On
Okay.
top.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. It was a great discussion with you. I want to let you talk to
yeah.
other people.
Yeah, appreciate it, man. Thanks for
God
that.
bless
That was really good. Thank you.
Totally be back.
Yeah, you did. All right, so kind of got me in the middle of a. Okay, so because everything's out already, I'm gonna try to rush through it a little bit. So you guys want to give it a shot?
Yeah.
3 very easy
Not me,
questions.
him.
Okay, it's fine. So the first one's the hardest, but then they get easier. So I have 2 images here. Let me see. Actually, if you don't mind, can I switch the battery on this one?
Go ahead.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Oh yeah. So.
How often do you come out here?
To this university is my 3rd time here.
3rd time?
But I try to go out in the public,
Uh-huh.
have conversations like at least once a week.
Okay.
You know, at least, but sometimes, you know, I get busy. I still have to work and stuff. So Yeah. So all right. So real quick. So two images here. One of them's a photograph and one of them's a painting. So I want to see if you could tell the difference.
Oh. I feel like this is the painting.
Yeah, painting, photograph.
Okay. All right. So it was a trick question. They're both paintings. Yeah. So this is an oil painting and this is a digital painting done on an iPad. I don't expect people to get this one. No, yeah, these are super realistic, right? So I don't expect people to get this one right because it's impossible, right? But there is two reasons why I asked this question. They have to do with common sense. So the first one is just believing someone opens the door to being deceived, right? Because you believe me that once a photograph, that influences your choice, right? So it's not good to just believe someone, especially when it comes to determining something is real. So the second reason is if we want to determine something is real, an image is not good enough, because if I showed you an image of me flying or me walking on water, would you believe I could do those things?
No.
No, that's obvious, right? Because it defies physics. So these next two actually have to do with physics, elementary physics, actually. So they actually have to do with water.
Okay.
So once water is contained like in this bottle, could we agree that always seeks the lowest point? In other words, it always goes to the bottom. Because I could turn the bottle any direction, but water always goes down. That's a fact, right? It can't be denied. So since we understand that fact about water, it always goes down. How I'm showing you these two images, I painted the water blue with food coloring just to make it easier. How I'm showing you these, which one is upside down? Since we understand water always goes down. One of these two images, how I'm showing them to you, is upside down. We understand water always goes down. Which one's upside down? Again, the water's blue.
I feel like you're gonna trick me again.
No, it's not a trick question. I mean,
that's not.
It's not a trick question, this one. But yeah, okay. You agree with him?
Yeah, I was just mainly focusing on the grips.
Oh, no. The grip's there just to kind of throw you off.
Oh, okay.
So I actually took this one like that. You got it. I took it holding it up against the ceiling. So I had to grip this one too, because then it'll be too easy, you know what I'm saying? I had to make them look both the same. But yeah, you got it, because the water can't stick to the top of the bottle, you know? You got it. So this next one, have you ever heard of water always finds its level?
Yeah.
Yeah, right? What could be another word for level? You gotta use a different word.
No, I wouldn't know.
Horizontal?
Okay,
Or
horizontal.
even, you know, like even surface, right? That's the literal definition of level. So again, since we understand, you know, water always finds its level, you know, when it's contained, which one of these two represents level correctly when it comes to water?
B.
Which one do you think?
I'll go with that. I'm not
Okay.
sure.
Okay. You think this means level, water level?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you agree with him? Or you think this? Honestly, which one do you think is level?
This one just because it seems more.
Okay,
even.
perfect. Okay, so you think it's A and you think it's B, right?
Yeah, I think it's B.
Okay, so you got it right, obviously.
What?
This is what I mean. No, I'm glad you're kind of trolling a little bit, because over 95% of the population, you actually believe is this one. I used to too.
I mean, I chose this one because we can't assume that the ground is flat all the time. So.
Well, this is water, like a pool, like a giant lake. We have measured a surface of a lake,
Oh, okay.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, you were close, but the real reason I do this is because over 95% of the population have been tricked to believing this is the answer, even though we know it's this one. You guys want to know why? You guys believe the Earth is a ball? Right?
Yeah.
So NASA in specific, they claim to have satellites orbiting the Earth. So they need to know the radius of orbit. So they need to know the radius of the Earth. So they do tell us the radius of the Earth is 3,959 miles. So if we multiply that times 2, we get the diameter. We multiply the diameter times pi, we get the circumference. So the circumference of the Earth is 24,901 miles. That's what they're telling us. So there needs to be curvature every mile. So the first mile is an 8-inch drop. Second mile, 32 inches. By the third mile, there should be 6 feet of curvature. So if we went out to a giant lake that was miles across, build a level structure over it, there should be 6 feet of curvature on that lake. But if we understand how water behaves, that surface of the water is going to be parallel to the level, because that's what water does.
Oh.
So if I was to, this would be the number one experiment to debunk the globe. But if I was to ask you guys, what's the number one proof or reason that makes you believe that the Earth is a ball?
Isn't it because of the what's it called, the shadows? Like I know someone like.
So you're talking about the experiment. I'm not sure his name.
I forgot his name, but like
shadows
yeah.
experiment, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so about that experiment, so what they did with that experiment, they already assumed, they made two assumptions before doing that experiment. The first assumption is that the sun is 93 million miles away, really, really far away, so that the sun rays are coming in parallel. So that's the first assumption they're doing. The second assumption is they already assumed the Earth was a globe. So what they did there, that measurement with the shadows, they were measuring for the circumference. So the degree and change in the shadow, based on the distance from the 2 points, is how they were able to theoretically measure the circumference of the Earth, based on the assumption that the Earth was already a sphere and that the sun rays are coming in parallel.
Okay.
So, but in reality, sun rays don't come in parallel, and the Earth is not a sphere. So those are two assumptions that were made before the sticks and shadows experiment.
Okay.
So it's a faulty experiment.
Okay.
So if that experiment truly is true, then we should be able to physically measure it like this very easily.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So, is there any other points about the globe that makes you believe, you know, that? Real quick, I mean, the horizon. How would you guys describe the horizon? These are images of the horizon, 20 miles in the sky, without a GoPro lens.
Flat.
Right,
Yeah,
horizontal, right? Can we say that's where the word horizon comes from, if you ask me. You know, so the only place we're ever gonna see curvature of the Earth is through a GoPro lenses, like fisheye lens. You know, they curve horizontal lines, or through CGI images, like NASA does. These are NASA official images. So, this one's from 2012 and this one's from 2002, and they admit that these are Photoshop, all of them. So no image of the Earth from outer space like this exists.
Okay.
So they're all cartoons, basically. So in my opinion, any space agency or NASA basically are Disney for adults, basically. So it's just cartoons. So because if this is real, we should be able to measure it down here. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, I came across this 6 years ago in 2016, and it started getting censored in 2019, which is one of the reasons why I'm out here. So the way they're censoring this is they're not removing this. What they're doing is they're demoting it on Google, on the search engine, and YouTube, and they're promoting a bunch of these experts or, you know, scientists, supposedly, you know, experts, and they're just ridiculing it and dismissing it. So that's how they're censoring it. They're just making fun of it. They're not taking it serious, because if they actually did take it serious, the globe will fall apart. You know what I'm saying? So you guys heard of this topic before? I'm pretty sure you guys have, right? You guys heard of flat Earth, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I try to stay away from that word because it's kind of a triggered word.
Yeah.
So people hear that word and they run away, literally, or they're, you know, or, oh, this guy's an idiot, and they just walk away. You know? They automatically have a wall built in front of them, so none of the information comes in. So, but yeah, I mean, flat Earth, again, it's not flat. The Earth is level, you know, demonstrably level. You know, have you guys ever heard of Euclidean plane geometry? So it's the geometry assumed to build everything we see. So from railroads to bridges to anything. So it's assuming that the Earth is a level plane. That's where Euclidean plane geometry comes in. We don't use spherical geometry to build long distances, so railroads, all that. So they don't take account for curvature. Not even when it comes to flying for navigation. Airplanes fly level over a plane. That's what they call airplanes. You know, they're flying straight lines. You know, that's the best way to save fuel. So yeah, everything proves that the Earth is not a ball. Everything. And anything's practical. Now, when you're looking into theories and stories about the sky, then you could believe those stories if you like. People could just believe whatever they want. But I go with what I know, which is physics. Yeah. You know. And real quick, if you guys want to take a look at these are the 6 main proofs to debunk the globe. If you guys have any questions about them, you know, before you guys go, you guys can ask me. And here's my card as well, my YouTube card. If you guys want to check it out, I do go to other universities as well. And I go to the public just to talk to people about this, since it is being censored. I'm just bringing a conversation to the people. What do you guys think? You think it's possible that maybe we were lied to about this place?
I mean, I think it's possible. I mean, there's still unanswered things.
A lot of unanswered questions.
Yeah.
A lot. And once you look into this, you're gonna get way more unanswered questions than you think. You know, and yeah. I mean, do you have any other questions before you guys go?
As of right now, no, I don't.
I know. It's kind of like out of the blue. I understand. No, yeah, kind of catching you off guard. But yeah, that's my card right there. If you guys come across something that, you know, that maybe could change my mind, you know, you guys could leave a comment on there or something, you know.
Okay. All right, sounds good.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks.
All right, thank you.
Yes, have a good one.
So
you too, thank you.
If you think the Earth is flat, what would happen at the ends of the Earth?
Okay, I'm glad you asked that question. So, let me show you.
Like, would you just fall off? Is
No.
it
Where is it? Okay, so this is not what the Earth looks like, but this is what it would look like if what they're telling us is all that exists, right? All the continents, right? Because there could be more continents here. The continents could be different shape, you know. Point being is, I don't know if you ever heard of the Antarctic Treaty. So over 50 countries signed this treaty that prevents any civilians from independently exploring Antarctica. So if Antarctica exists, they're telling us is a sheet of ice underneath the globe. If Antarctica actually exists, it's that ring around the Earth. So it's what's containing the water. So that's where I think the word continent comes from the word container, because it has to contain the water. So if we start going south, again, I don't know if this treaty is being enforced or not, because I'm not a millionaire, I don't have a plane or a boat. But if you go south, supposedly they will stop you and arrest you, because there's a treaty signed that it's illegal to go this way. So a lot of people think that there could be other Earths if you just go this way. So like you're saying, well, what about the edge, right? And then, I mean, even if there was other Earths, in every direction, how far can you go, right? Like, is the Earth infinite, or is there a wall of some kind? So I understand your question. There's no answer to that question right now. But there is an Antarctic treaty preventing us from finding out what will happen. So circumnavigation, right? You heard of circumnavigation, right?
No.
So when somebody supposedly goes to China and then they come back around to the globe, right? So east and west on this map is just circles. So when people say, oh, we circumnavigated the Earth, of course it's a ball. No, you could circumnavigate a plane too around the center point. East and west just become circles. So nobody's ever circumnavigated the globe or the Earth north to south. So nobody's ever gone south and then underneath and over on a ball. And why do you think that is? Because it's impossible. You go south, you're not coming back. They just say that you're either gonna crash into some kind of wall, or who knows what the fuck's gonna happen. You might run out of fuel before you reach anything. I think it could just be blackness and ice, and we can only go so far. Think about it. If it's just frozen ice every direction and darkness, why the fuck would we want to go that way? So again, nobody knows what the edge is of the Earth. And outer space is just a concept. So I know a lot of people think of flat Earth like a disc floating in outer space, right? Outer space is just a concept. So what's encompassing the Earth? Nobody knows. What's outside of the Earth? Nobody knows. The lights in the sky, the stars, they're just lights. Nobody really knows what they are. Here, let me show you. This is what the stars look like when you zoom into them. So nobody knows what the stars are. Anybody trying to tell you what these stars are, and the planets are just stars. This is what the planets look like, and this is what NASA shows us. But this is what it actually looks like, Mars. And this is Jupiter, and this is what they show us, a cartoon. Anything about the sky, anybody telling you what it is just a religion. Nobody knows what the stars actually are, other than that they reset every year. That's why they're called constellations, because they're constant. And that actually debunks the globe, if you ask me, because if the globe was truly spinning, shooting through outer space, we should have a different night sky of the stars every night. Every night should be a different pattern, basically. But the fact that we have constellations, that proves that the Earth is not shooting through the galaxy.
So you don't think the Earth is rotating around the sun in orbit?
No, the sun is
So then how do you explain seasonability and...
Seasons, right? Yeah. So the sun, let me just show you these real quick. Have you ever heard of corpuscular rays? So corpuscular rays are rays that come in at an angle through clouds, especially when there's clouds close to the sun. So these show us that people have triangulated the sun using these rays back in the day, and they estimated the sun to only be about 30 miles in diameter and only about 300 to 3,000 miles in the sky. So in comparison to the Earth, it's a very tiny sun. 30 miles in diameter, it's nothing compared to the Earth. And in only about 300 to 3,000 miles in the sky. So the sun's movement above us is what gives us the season. So for example, when we have our summer, the sun's doing a circle around this yellow line, for example.
So
and that's
so you think the sun revolves around the Earth?
Around the sun like this, and then when it's winter, it opens up, so it does this circle, the purple one. That's why Australia has summer when it's our winter, and we have summer when it's their winter.
Wait, so you think that it rotates like this,
like a clock,
and then
it opens up when it's our winter.
And then what makes it go back?
And then it goes back in again. That's just part of the cycle. It has a relationship with the north, the sun.
But how would you explain the cycle? What makes the cycle happen? Because
that's a mystery. I don't know what's powering life right now. I don't know. It's whatever created this place made it happen that way. Yeah. But again, this is just theoretical based on how the movement of the sun and the sun rays. Because not even this is 100%, but it's a better explanation than the globe. Do you know what the globe's explanation is to the seasons?
Yeah, I was studying about it. Basically, like when you rotate, when you're at a certain point, the Earth moves slowly. So in June, winter solstice, something.
Yeah. So what creates the seasons for the globe is actually the 23.4 degree tilt
Yeah, that's
So
it.
that doesn't make any sense to me if you ask me, because if something's, you know, millions and millions of miles away, a little tilt is not going to cause this much difference in heat, you know what I'm saying? But that's the explanation they give. But in reality, this is a more logical one. The sun obviously being a very tiny, small sun put above the earth to illuminate so that we could see. Because a lot of people say, oh, well, why is the sun round and the earth not round? Well, the sun is a light. The earth is not a light. the sun's there to give us vision, you know, it's light so that we can see, so we can navigate this place, you know. So yeah, the sun has its purpose, and it's just to give us light. You know, and then the moon, it could be the same thing for the night, you know, it illuminates the night, so you're not walking into trees. You know what I'm saying?
So if you think the moon is the same, how do you explain the ocean? Because the ocean is tied to the moon.
Yeah, so they tell us that the waves from the ocean are caused by the gravity of the moon, but it doesn't make any sense because Earth is supposedly a bigger mass than the moon, so how can the smaller object affect the bigger object when it comes to gravity? You know what I'm saying? So the Earth should be holding that water and nothing.
Well, I mean, it depends on the the distance. Sorry.
Yeah.
On the distance, because you know other planets they're much bigger, but they can't hold any water.
Right. Well, that's what they tell us again, but this is what the planets look. It's just lights in the sky, and they're not even millions of miles away. Because this was using an 83 times zoom camera, so 83 times zoom is very limited. So we shouldn't be able to bring them into focus. So if you ask me, these lights, again, planets and stars, they're literally no more than a couple thousand miles in the sky. So I think there's a ceiling above us. I don't know what kind of ceiling it is or how it, if it ever comes, like I don't know, but they're just lights in the sky. Again, anybody telling you what they are, it's just a religion. Christianity would say that they're angels. The stars are angels. and NASA would tell you that they're Earth-like planets with water, you know, and I'm pretty sure the Quran will tell you something else, like, you know, that they are, you know. But again, nobody knows what they are. Other than that they're constant, you know, they're just like a clock revolving above us, you know, like a calendar in a way above us. That's pretty much it. All right.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you, man. Thanks for the talk.
Have a good one.
Yeah, you too, man.